Who Owns the Future? Jaron Lanier, Chapter 6. So we're getting into the world of finance and how this all plays out there. One needn't know exactly how the perfect investment will make money in advance, since the point is to channel information. Information and money are mutable cousins, so the investor will become rich without needing to know how. The perfect investment presides at arm's length from real events in the world, so that it barely takes on liability. It ideally doesn't do or make anything. The plan is simply to channel the information of those who do act in the world. It is those actors who take risks, not the perfect investment. So this is an example of this is, it is not YouTube's job to notice that someone has posted copyrighted video. Misrepresented assets flowed through the Great Recession era funds that were bailed out. But as of this writing, most of the beneficiaries have escaped any of the downsides, which were radiated out to taxpayers and ground level investors. The perfect investment will quickly anneal into an impermeable and unchangeable position by nature a monopoly in its domain. Competition in a traditional sense might appear, but it will never achieve more than a token status. I use the term monopoly here not in the legal sense as in antitrust law, but in the vernacular Silicon Valley sense. For instance, Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal and a foundational investor in Facebook, taught students in his Stanford course on startups to find a way to create monopolies. So this is interesting, and it's a good, that's a good thing, a thread that carries on into the next chapter as well. But just that, like, understanding the relationships between these decisions and the actions here. So the perfect investment is about channeling information. And I like the difference here, or calling out the difference between channeling the information of those who act in the world. So basically calling out the investors as people who are taking on like a secondhand risk. The real risk and the real action belongs to the people who are doing the stuff in the real world. These people are just channeling the information around those actions. So let's keep going. It's okay to notice in abstract that free online services aren't creating as many jobs as they destroy, but we still hold up these newfangled companies as examples of how innovation will drive the economy. The problem is broad, and we are all part of it. Individuals of high or low station are not reasonably able to avoid playing along in an immediately compelling system, even if that system is destroying itself in the big picture. In each case, someone is practically blackmailed by the distortions of playing the pawn in someone else's network. It's a weird kind of stealth blackmail, because if you look at what's in front of you, the deal looks sweet, but you don't see all that should be in front of you. And I'm calling that out to then go back and finish up the previous quote. Who wouldn't want to get a quick online ego boost or accept an insanely great deal on an online coupon? or insanely easy home mortgage financing. These might seem like unrelated temptations, but they reveal themselves to be similar once you think about information systems in terms of information instead of imposing outdated categories on them. We loved the crazy cheap easy mortgages. We love the free music. We love the cheap online prices. These newer spy services do not struggle on behalf of our security, but instead figure out just how little payment everyone in the chain can be made to accept. We are not benefiting from the benevolence of some artificial intelligence super being. We are exploiting each other off the books while those concentrating our information remain on the books. We love our treats, but will eventually discover we are depleting our own value. The usual complaints about Amazon come from its competitors, and it's natural to dismiss them. However, if you're a smaller competing seller of books, the situation is quite stark. And then he gets into explaining how this whole process works. So a bot program in the Amazon cloud monitors the price of books you sell everywhere else in the world. It automatically makes sure Amazon is never undersold. There is no longer a local intelligence advantage for pricing by small local sellers. This leads to bizarre outcomes, such as books being priced for free through Amazon simply because they are being given away as part of a promotion elsewhere. Therefore, promotions for ordinary small sellers become more expensive or riskier than they otherwise would be. Information supremacy for one company becomes, as a matter of course, a form of behavior modification of the rest of the world. The total amount of risk in the market as a whole stays the same, perhaps, but it's not distributed evenly. Instead, the smaller players take on more risk while the player with the biggest computer takes on less. Amazon's risks are reduced. It won't lose a sale to someone else's pricing strategy. While local sellers face increased risks, they want to undertake their own pricing strategies. This is just one simple example of how information advantages turn into money and power advantages. Every player with a less global information position is forced to take on more risk, so that the player with a superior information position can enjoy reduced risk. I'm going to pause there because that's exactly that's what it comes down to. What I've been describing in the Moore's law, and who benefits from that, and it's the corporations, not the people. And so this is a better way, more technically proficient way of describing that. It's the global information position. And if you have the strong computers, right, the whole idea of the difference between local and national business was that the local could cater to their local people better, that they could look out for their local interests more. But as national brands started building these global, investing in this global information position, they now have even better understanding of local environments than the local businesses. They have better data about it, but that doesn't mean that it's better all around. I'm going to call that out. I like this. He noted this like as a sidebar. Authors and publishers have become afraid of criticizing Amazon. And then he goes on, to me, the people who run the big servers like Amazon are just a bunch of techie bums like me. So I know they can take a little criticism. And he elaborates how, he has a potentially perceived conflict of interest here, and I just think that he handles that nicely. So let's continue on. From a consumer perspective, Amazon would seem to be driving prices down, and that ought to be a great thing. And yet the situation is more complicated than that. Around the turn of the century, Amazon was caught up in a controversy about differential pricing. Essentially, this means that an online site might charge you more for given items than it charges other people, like your neighbors. They stated at the time that it was not really discrimination, but experimentation. It was offering different prices to people to see what they would pay, which is just kind of fucked up. And there's nothing special about Amazon in that regard. The travel site Orbitz was found to be directing users of more expensive computers to more expensive travel options. We probably don't know about the vast majority of examples. While customers might become uncomfortable when made aware of these practices, they're generally legal. And that's where, despite the supposed openness of everything in the internet age, customers don't necessarily notice differential pricing. And it's worthy of noticing because of its starkness. Even if differential pricing turns out to be rare, the key point is that it's hard for ordinary people who interact with siren servers to get enough context to make the best decisions. That's huge. So it's about being informed. It's about I don't know, like there's something, big about that last part there, that it's hard for them to have enough context to make the best decisions. I'm really highlighting this too because it speaks to the casual way that we are approaching all of this in a super irresponsible way. And, differential pricing very quickly moves into discrimination, and it can be a way of oppressing people, essentially, if somebody wanted to. That speaks to the power of these corporations and the leadership of these corporations, the power that they hold. If Amazon decided it had malicious visions, it could use differential pricing to make things harder for certain people. And they have the ability to target in such a specific way. And it kind of gets down to this even more complicated. It breaks open into, if maybe another thread off of this is like pricing or, value has become so subjective. It's become so varied moment to moment. We don't really have things because there's always different offerings and you can get that instantly. We don't have really any lasting value or concrete value, I should say. Siren servers do repattern the world, and that will become really important for the next chapter. Conventional business thinking is inadequate to describe how they work. When a big cloud computing service suggests that it found you the best price, think about what that could mean. They have access to a tremendous amount of information about you, about sellers, and about everyone in between. They're not able to offer a bargain because they got lucky cultivating just the right supplier, or because they have superior knowledge about a little corner of the world. No, they're able to offer a bargain by applying broad analytic techniques to an automatic gathering of information about everybody. There can be no such thing as a universal bargain, any more than everyone can be above average. Large, highly automated online businesses can't help but present some of the problems of monopolies, even when there is no monopoly present. Amazon doesn't directly go after a smaller bookseller like an old-fashioned monopolist, any more than it might have targeted a particular person for differential pricing due to prejudice or some other malice. It all happens automatically as a matter of course. And that's the problem. Again, like underlying threads here. It's not usually like malicious intent. You're just like, you're doing the work. It's the technology serves as a buffer against responsibility or accountability. And often you can act on impulses to test things out like this that are really negative and harmful. And the monopoly thing too is like, people don't understand, like the problem of monopolies isn't the oil tycoon guy. It's not the archetype of the monopoly characters of the Industrial Revolution. It's not the train barons or the oil barons. It's the consequence of what that does to our economy and to business. And monopoly can happen outside of an individual. It can happen on accident, right? And so these companies move toward that. So you think about like an Amazon. That's where the compounding benefit of the global information system, it provides advantages to continuously develop technology that not only allows you to just maintain a certain level of advantage over competition, consistently on a line. It's compound. It's another Moore's curve. In some cases, siren servers do tend to become approximate monopolies, as will be discussed later on in the section on exclusion principle. However, in other cases, competitive siren servers coexist. Amazon coexists with Apple, and Orbitz coexists with Priceline, Expedia, Travelocity. It used to be that information superiority was a prize won by becoming a monopoly, but no more. If multiple similar siren servers sites coexist, and they each have information superiority over customers, but approximate information parity with each other, then they won't be able to help but act as if they're colluding. This can be true even though there is no intent or action taken to collude. And that's where, again, this kind of explains what I was saying before. Old-fashioned collusion was an intentional creation of a specific illicit channel of information transparency. Transparency is not as universal as it might seem, but nonetheless, there is a lot more of it now than there used to be. For those who have the biggest and best connected computers. There's a lot less intent, however. The big picture result ends up being almost the opposite of the immediate small-scale appearance. It seems as though online services are bringing bargains to everyone, and yet wealthy disparity is increasing while social mobility is decreasing. If everyone were getting better options, wouldn't everyone be doing better as well? And then this last part feeds that part, and what's coming feeds into this next chapter, and it's really important. The terminology of disruption has been granted an almost sacred status in tech business circles. Technologists repeatedly apply the extreme efficiencies of digital networks in some area of endeavor in such a way that the sources of value, whatever they may be, are left more off the books than they used to be. But we end up in control of the server that runs the scheme. It happened to music and other media early on, but the pattern is being repeated everywhere. Disruption by the use of digital network technology undermines the very idea of markets and capitalism. Instead of economies being about a bunch of players with unique positions in a market, we devolve toward a small number of spying operations in omniscient positions, which means that eventually markets of all kinds will shrink. So that's the end of the chapter. Really critical at understanding broadly the systems, how they work, in particular, how they work on this global scale, how they work at the largest corporations, and how they have this like monopolizing effect, and that disruption is not good. It's not about disrupting. It's more dangerous than that.